The first thing I noticed when I walked through my front door after 10 months in Afghanistan wasn't the smell of Emily's vanilla candles or the sound of my kids laughing. It was Ryan Miller's gym bag sitting on my kitchen counter like he owned the damn place. "Welcome home, honey." Emily's voice rang out from upstairs, but there was something off about it. Too bright, too forced, like she was performing for an audience I couldn't see. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I'm Adrian Wolfe, 38 years old, Army captain with 2 tours under my belt and a Bronze Star I never talk about. I'd spent the last 10 months dodging IEDs and keeping my unit alive in Kandahar. Coming home should have felt like paradise. Instead, it felt like walking into enemy territory. "Dad!" Jake, my 8-year-old son, came barreling down the stairs and crashed into my legs. Behind him, 6-year-old Eva peeked around the corner, suddenly shy after months apart. "Hey, buddy." I ruffled Jake's hair, but my eyes stayed on that gym bag. "Who's been visiting while Daddy was away?" Jake's face changed. The excitement dimmed. "Uncle Ryan comes over a lot. He says he's helping Mom with stuff." Uncle Ryan. Since when was Ryan Miller family? Last I checked, he was just some guy who owned a CrossFit gym downtown and had a habit of showing up at neighborhood barbecues uninvited. Emily appeared at the top of the stairs wearing a sundress I'd never seen before. Red. Tight. The kind of thing she used to say was too much for daytime. Her hair was different too, shorter, more styled, like she'd been making an effort for someone. "Ryan's been such a lifesaver," she said, coming down the stairs with that same artificial brightness. "Helping with the kids, fixing things around the house. You know how useless I am with tools." Funny thing about being in combat, you develop instincts about when people are lying to you. Right now, every alarm bell in my head was going off like incoming mortar fire. "That's real neighborly of him," I said, keeping my voice level. "Where is he now?" "Oh, he just left. Had to get back to the gym." Emily reached the bottom of the stairs and gave me a quick hug. Quick being the operative word, like she was checking a box on a to-do list. "I thought we could have a quiet family dinner tonight. Just us." Just us. After 10 months apart, those should have been the sweetest words in the English language. Instead, they sounded like damage control. I spent that first night lying awake, staring at the ceiling and listening to Emily breathe beside me. She was facing away, curled up on her side of the bed like there was an invisible wall between us. In Afghanistan, I dreamed about holding my wife again. Now she felt like a stranger. The next morning, I started paying attention to details. It's what kept me alive overseas, and apparently I was going to need those skills at home too. First detail, our wedding photo on the mantel had been moved. It used to sit front and center. Now it was pushed to the side, partially hidden behind a plant I'd never seen before. Second detail, there were 2 coffee mugs in the sink. Emily only drank tea. Third detail, Jake flinched when I asked if he wanted to throw a football in the backyard. "Uncle Ryan says I throw like a girl," he mumbled. That's when the ice started forming in my chest. The same cold calm that came over me during firefights. When emotions became a luxury you couldn't afford and everything narrowed down to tactical thinking. I called my buddy Derek, another vet who lived across town. "You free for lunch? I need to talk to someone who speaks my language." Derek had lost his left leg to an IED 2 years ago, but he'd gained something most people never get: absolute clarity about what mattered and what was bullshit. We met at a diner downtown, far enough from my neighborhood that we wouldn't run into anyone I knew. "So, what's eating you?" Derek asked after we'd ordered. I told him about the gym bag, the coffee mugs, Jake's comment about throwing like a girl. Derek listened without interrupting, nodding occasionally like he was receiving a tactical briefing. "You think she's cheating?" he asked when I finished. I think someone's been playing house while I was gone, and it wasn't just Emily and the kids. Derek leaned back in his booth. What are you going to do about it? Gather intelligence first, then decide on a course of action. This isn't Afghanistan, Adrian. You can't just eliminate the target. I smiled, but there wasn't much warmth in it. Who said anything about eliminating anyone? There are lots of ways to win a war. That afternoon, I made a trip to Best Buy. Told Emily I was picking up a new phone charger. Instead, I bought a small security system, the kind with tiny cameras that look like smoke detectors. The kid behind the counter, couldn't have been older than 20, walked me through the setup. These babies will stream directly to your phone, he said with enthusiasm that reminded me of fresh recruits. Motion-activated, night vision, the works. Your wife will love the peace of mind. If only he knew. Installing the cameras took 3 days. I put one in the living room, one in the kitchen, and one covering the front entrance. Emily never questioned the new smoke detectors. Why would she? I was a soldier. Security was my job. On Thursday, I got my first real intelligence. I was at the VA hospital for a routine checkup when my phone buzzed with a motion alert. I opened the app and watched Ryan Miller walk into my house like he lived there. He didn't knock, didn't wait for Emily to answer the door, just used a key. A key to my house. I watched him kiss my wife in my living room, not a friendly peck on the cheek, a real kiss, the kind that said they'd been doing this for a while. Then I watched him ruffle Jake's hair and say something that made my son's shoulders slump. The audio wasn't great, but I could read lips well enough to catch, "Your dad's not here to baby you anymore." That's when I knew Ryan Miller had made the biggest mistake of his life. I spent the next week in reconnaissance mode, gathering intelligence like I was planning a mission behind enemy lines. Every morning, I'd kiss Emily goodbye and tell her I was job hunting or running errands. Instead, I'd park 3 blocks away and monitor the camera feeds from my phone. Ryan showed up every day around 10 a.m., always letting himself in with that key. He'd stay for 2 or 3 hours, sometimes longer. I documented everything. Timestamps, duration of visits, what rooms they went into. Emily wasn't just cheating on me. She was running a full-scale operation to replace me. The evidence was damning. On Tuesday, I watched Ryan discipline Jake for spilling juice, making my son stand in the corner for 20 minutes. On Wednesday, he was lounging in my recliner, feet up, while Emily brought him a beer. My beer from my refrigerator, in my house. But the moment that sealed Ryan's fate came on Friday afternoon. I was sitting in my car, watching the live feed, when Jake came home from school upset about something. He was crying. I could see his little shoulders shaking as he talked to Emily in the kitchen. Instead of comforting him, she called for Ryan. Ryan appeared on camera, and I watched him grab my 8-year-old son by the arm. Hard enough that Jake winced. Then Ryan dragged him to the back door and shoved him outside. "Stay out there until you stop crying like a baby," Ryan said. The audio was clear enough this time, crystal clear. Emily laughed. Actually laughed as my son stood on the back porch, tears streaming down his face. I was out of my car and driving home before I even realized I'd moved. The cold calm was gone, replaced by something much more dangerous. But as I pulled into my driveway, I forced myself to stop and think. Charging in there like an angry husband would accomplish nothing except giving them ammunition to use against me later. Emily would claim I was unstable, violent, unfit to be around the children. Ryan would play the victim, the family friend just trying to help out. No. This required strategy. I parked in the garage and entered through the front door like I'd been gone all day. Jake was still on the back porch, but he'd stopped crying. Emily was in the kitchen starting dinner, no sign of Ryan. "Hey, buddy," I called to Jake through the sliding glass door. "What are you doing out there?" "I got in trouble at school," Jake said quietly. "Mom said I had to think about what I did." I looked at Emily. She was focused very intently on chopping vegetables. "What happened at school?" "I pushed a kid who was picking on Eva," Jake said. He was calling her names. My son was being punished for defending his sister, by a man who had no right to discipline my children, and a woman who was supposed to be their mother. "Come inside, Jake," I said. "Sounds like you were being a good big brother to me." Emily's knife paused mid-chop. "Adrian, he can't just go around pushing other kids. He can't just stand around while someone hurts his sister either." I put my hand on Jake's shoulder as he came inside. "We'll talk about better ways to handle it next time, but I'm proud of you for looking out for Eva." Jake's face lit up like I'd just given him Christmas morning. When was the last time someone had told him they were proud of him? That night, after Emily fell asleep, I sat in my home office and planned Ryan Miller's destruction. Not his passing. I wasn't a psychopath, but his complete and total humiliation. I wanted him to understand what happened when you messed with a soldier's family. I started with research. Social media, public records, business filings. Ryan Miller owned CrossFit Revolution downtown, had an on-and-off girlfriend named Kendra who posted way too many selfies, and apparently had a habit of sliding into women's DMs based on the screenshots Kendra had posted during their last breakup. More importantly, Ryan had a reputation to maintain. His gym catered to soccer moms and weekend warriors who wanted to feel tough. His Instagram was full of motivational quotes and shirtless photos. He'd built his brand on being the alpha male who could whip anyone into shape. Alpha males don't like being made to look weak in front of their pack. I also did some digging into Emily's social media. She'd been posting photos of family activities while I was deployed, trips to the zoo, backyard barbecues, Jake's baseball games. Ryan appeared in about half of them, always described as our helpful friend, or Jake and Eva's honorary uncle. The comments were interesting. Lots of heart-eye emojis from Emily's single friends, a few raised eyebrows from the more observant neighbors, and one comment from Emily's mother that made me smile. He certainly seems to be around a lot. Even Patricia, who'd never liked me, was starting to notice something wasn't right. Monday morning, I put the first phase of my plan into action. I waited until Ryan's usual arrival time, then called Emily from my car 3 blocks away. "Hey, honey, I forgot some paperwork I need for my interview today. Can you grab the folder from my desk and meet me in the garage? I'm running late." "Of course," Emily said, but I could hear the tension in her voice. Ryan was probably already there. I drove home and parked in the driveway instead of the garage. Through the kitchen window, I could see Emily frantically texting someone, probably telling Ryan to hide or leave, or whatever their protocol was for close calls. I walked in through the front door and called out, "Emily, did you find that folder?" "Still looking," she called back from my office. I made my way to the living room and found exactly what I expected: Ryan's gym bag on the couch, a half-empty beer bottle on my coffee table, and the TV tuned to ESPN instead of Emily's usual morning talk shows. But no Ryan. I checked the downstairs bathroom. Empty. The basement. Nothing. Then I heard it. A faint creaking from the upstairs guest bedroom. Ryan Miller, 37-year-old gym owner and self-proclaimed alpha male, was hiding in my guest room closet. I could have confronted him right then. Could have dragged him out and beaten him senseless in front of Emily. But that would have made me the bad guy, the violent husband who couldn't control his temper. Instead, I did something much worse. I took out my phone and started recording. "Emily," I called out, walking up the stairs. "I think I left the folder in the guest room." I opened the guest room door and made sure to film the rumpled bed, the men's shoes kicked under the nightstand, the cologne smell that definitely wasn't mine. Then I opened the closet door. Ryan was crammed between winter coats and old blankets, looking like a kid playing hide and seek. Except kids don't usually have that look of absolute terror on their faces. Well, I said, making sure my phone captured every second. "Look what we have here. Ryan Miller, ladies and gentlemen, CrossFit instructor, alpha male, and apparently hide-and-seek champion." Ryan tried to play it off like he had some reasonable explanation for being in my closet. "Adrian, hey man, I can explain." "Oh, I'm sure you can." I kept recording as he climbed out, his face red with embarrassment. Were you helping Emily organize my winter clothes? That's so thoughtful. Emily appeared in the doorway behind me. Adrian, please, let me explain. Explain what? How our family friend here ended up playing hide-and-seek in our guest room? I turned the camera toward her. Or maybe you want to explain why he has a key to our house? The look that passed between them was worth 1,000 confessions, guilt, panic, and the dawning realization that their little game was over. It's not what you think, Ryan said, finally finding his voice. Really? What do I think, Ryan? He opened his mouth, then closed it. Smart enough to realize it was a trap question, but not smart enough to have avoided the trap in the first place. I think, I continued, that you've been playing house with my wife while I was getting shot at overseas. I think you've been disciplining my children like you have some right to be their father. And I think you're about to find out what happens when you mess with a soldier's family. Ryan puffed up his chest, probably remembering he was supposed to be the alpha male here. Look, man, Emily and you what? I stepped closer, and Ryan instinctively stepped back. Funny how tough guys react when they're not dealing with suburban soccer moms. You what, Ryan? We fell in love, Emily said from the doorway. The words hung in the air like smoke from an explosion, final, irreversible, the kind of truth that changes everything that comes after. In love, I repeated, still filming. How romantic. And when did this love affair start? Before or after I deployed to Afghanistan? Neither of them answered, which was an answer in itself. Here's what's going to happen, I said, pocketing my phone. Ryan, you're going to leave my house. You're going to give Emily back the key you've been using to let yourself in, and you're never going to set foot on my property again. You can't tell me what to do, Ryan said, but his voice lacked conviction. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Want to bet? Something in my tone made Ryan reconsider whatever tough guy response he'd been planning. He looked at Emily, who was staring at the floor like she could disappear into it. This isn't over, he said, pushing past me toward the stairs. You're absolutely right, I called after him. It's just getting started. After Ryan left, Emily tried to salvage the situation. She cried, she apologized, she explained how lonely she'd been with me gone, how Ryan had just been there for her when she needed someone. I listened without interrupting, the same way I'd listened to intelligence briefings, gathering information, noting contradictions, filing away details I might need later. I never meant for it to happen, she said, tears streaming down her face. It just did. Like Jake getting locked outside yesterday just happened? Her face went white. What are you talking about? I saw the video, Emily. Ryan grabbed our son and shoved him outside for crying, and you laughed. I didn't. You laughed while our 8-year-old stood on the porch crying because some stranger decided he needed to toughen up. Emily's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She knew I had her. I want you out, I said quietly. Adrian, please. Pack a bag. Go stay with your mother. We'll figure out the rest later, but I want you out of this house today. You can't kick me out of my own home. Watch me. That afternoon, I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. Derek had recommended a guy named Tom Harrison who specialized in military divorces. Former Marine himself, so he understood the unique challenges service members faced. Document everything, Harrison told me during our phone consultation. Video, audio, witnesses, financial records. If she's been having an affair, especially while you were deployed, that's going to play very well with a judge. What about the kids? With your deployment record and evidence of her affair, plus what you told me about the boyfriend disciplining your son, you'll get primary custody, no question. I felt some of the tension leave my shoulders. Jake and Eva were what mattered. Everything else was just noise. That evening, I sat my kids down for a talk. Emily was at her mother's, probably spinning some story about her unreasonable husband who couldn't forgive a simple mistake. Dad, Jake said quietly. Are you and Mom getting divorced? Kids are smarter than adults give them credit for. They see things, hear things, understand more than we think. Probably, buddy. But that doesn't change anything between us, okay? I love you and Eva more than anything in the world. Will Uncle Ryan still come over? The way Jake asked the question, hopeful, like he was afraid of the answer, told me everything I needed to know about how Ryan had been treating my son. No, I said firmly. Uncle Ryan won't be coming over anymore. Jake's shoulders relaxed for the first time in days. Over the next week, I put the rest of my plan into motion. I'd learned a lot about psychological warfare during my time in the Army. The key wasn't to destroy your enemy quickly. It was to make them destroy themselves. Ryan Miller was about to get a masterclass in strategic warfare. First, I created a fake email account and sent the closet video to Kendra, Ryan's on-and-off girlfriend. I didn't identify myself, just wrote, "Thought you should know what your boyfriend does when you're not around." Kendra, bless her heart, did exactly what I hoped she'd do. She posted the video on Facebook with a caption that would have made a drill sergeant proud. This is what cheating looks like, ladies. Ryan Miller, everyone. Real tough guy hiding in closets. The video went viral in our little suburb within hours. Ryan's gym buddies, his clients, his neighbors. Everyone saw him crammed in my closet looking like a scared little boy. But I was just getting started. Next, I paid a visit to CrossFit Revolution during the lunch rush. The gym was packed with exactly the kind of people I was hoping to find. Middle-aged professionals trying to recapture their youth, suburban moms looking for a workout that made them feel tough. I walked in wearing my army dress uniform, the same one I'd worn to accept my Bronze Star. I wanted everyone to know exactly who Ryan Miller had been messing with. "Can I help you?" asked the young woman at the front desk. "I'm looking for Ryan Miller. I believe he's been spending time with my family while I was deployed overseas." The gym went quiet. Treadmills kept running, but conversations stopped. Everyone was suddenly very interested in what the soldier had to say. Ryan emerged from his office, his face already red. "Adrian, what are you doing here?" "I wanted to thank you," I said, loudly enough for everyone to hear, "for taking such good care of my wife and children while I was in Afghanistan. Really went above and beyond the call of duty." A few people had stopped their workouts entirely now. This was better than reality TV. "Look, man, can we talk about this privately?" "Why? I'm just expressing my gratitude. It's not every day you find someone willing to move into your house, discipline your children, and sleep in your bed while you're serving your country." The silence was deafening. I could practically hear Ryan's reputation crumbling in real time. "Although," I continued, "I have to ask, is hiding in closets part of your standard fitness routine? Because I have to say it looked pretty effective in the video." Someone snickered, then someone else. Within seconds, half the gym was trying not to laugh. Ryan's face went from red to purple. "Get out of my gym." "Your gym?" I looked around at all the faces staring at us. "Funny. I thought this was a business that depended on community trust and respect. My mistake." I turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Oh, and Ryan, stay away from my family. Next time you want to play hide and seek, try it with someone your own size." The laughter followed me out to the parking lot. By the end of the week, Ryan Miller's life was falling apart faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. The closet video had been shared over 1,000 times on local Facebook groups. His gym was hemorrhaging members. Apparently, people didn't want fitness advice from someone who hid in closets when confronted by a cuckolded husband. But the real masterpiece was yet to come. I'd been monitoring Emily's social media, and she was getting desperate. Her mother had kicked her out after seeing the video, her friends were distancing themselves, and Ryan was too humiliated to be seen in public with her. That's when she made her biggest mistake. Emily posted a long, rambling Facebook status about how she was being persecuted for finding love, and how her controlling military husband was trying to destroy her happiness. She painted herself as the victim, Ryan as the misunderstood hero, and me as the villain. The post got exactly the reaction she was hoping for, from people who didn't know the whole story. Lots of supportive comments from her college friends who lived across the country, a few heart emojis from acquaintances who only knew her side. But it also got the attention of people who did know the whole story. Mrs. Henderson from down the street commented, "Emily, I saw that man yelling at Jake in your backyard last month. That poor child was crying." Mr. Patterson, Jake's baseball coach, added, "Jake's been telling me his Uncle Ryan says he's not tough enough. Kid's been afraid to swing at pitches because he doesn't want to strike out and disappoint him." Then came the comment that made my day. "This is Jake and Ava's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez. I think we need to have a conversation about what's been happening at home. Jake told me someone who isn't his father has been punishing him. I'm required to report concerns about child welfare." Emily deleted the post within an hour, but screenshots are forever, and I'd made sure to save every single comment. The next morning, I got a call from Child Protective Services. "Mr. Wolfe, this is Sarah Chen from CPS. We've received some concerns about your children's welfare. Can we schedule a time to talk?" "Of course," I said. "I've actually been hoping someone would call." The CPS interview went better than I could have hoped. I showed them the videos of Ryan disciplining Jake, the documentation of Emily's affair, the testimonials from neighbors and teachers. I explained how I'd come home from deployment to find a stranger essentially living in my house and acting as a stepfather to my children. "Mr. Wolfe," Sarah Chen said after reviewing everything, "I want you to know that we take these situations very seriously, especially when they involve military families. Your children are lucky to have a father who's looking out for them." "What happens now?" "We'll be conducting a full investigation. In the meantime, I'm recommending that your children remain in your primary custody. Mrs. Wolfe can have supervised visits until we complete our assessment." Supervised visits. Emily was going to lose her mind. She did. That afternoon, she showed up at my house with Ryan in tow, screaming about her rights as a mother and threatening to call her lawyer. I let them rant and rave on my front porch while I recorded everything from inside the house. "You can't keep my children from me," Emily shrieked. "I'm not keeping them from you," I called through the door. "CPS says you can see them anytime you want, with supervision." "This is insane. Ryan loves those kids." "Ryan doesn't get a vote. He's not their father." That's when Ryan made his second biggest mistake of this whole affair. His first had been messing with my family. His second was trying to break down my front door. I watched through the security camera as he threw his shoulder against the door, trying to force his way in. The door held. I'd reinforced it after my first deployment, but the attempt was clearly visible on video. I called 911. "This is Adrian Wolfe at 247 Maple Street. There's a man trying to break into my house. I have 2 small children inside, and I'm concerned for their safety." The police arrived within minutes. By then, Ryan had given up on the door and was pacing around my front yard like a caged animal. Emily was still screaming about her rights. Officer Martinez, a veteran himself based on the way he carried himself, took statements from everyone involved. He watched the video of Ryan trying to break down the door, reviewed the CPS documentation, and made his decision. "Mr. Miller, you're under arrest for attempted breaking and entering." "This is bullshit," Ryan exploded. "That's my girlfriend's house." "No, sir, it's Mr. Wolfe's house. Mrs. Wolfe has no legal right to invite you onto property she doesn't own, especially when there's a restraining order pending." Wait, a restraining order pending? Officer Martinez caught my confused look. "Your lawyer filed the paperwork this morning. Mr. Miller is to have no contact with you or your children." Tom Harrison, you beautiful bastard. As they loaded Ryan into the patrol car, he was still ranting about his rights and how this was all unfair. Emily was crying on my front lawn, finally realizing that her fairy tale romance had turned into a nightmare. I opened the front door and stepped onto the porch. "Emily," I said quietly, You need to leave my property. Adrian, please. We can work this out. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. The only mistake you made was getting caught. If I hadn't come home early that day, how long would this have gone on? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. I loved you, I continued. For 15 years I loved you. I would have died for you. I did die for you, a little bit every day I was overseas, missing you and the kids and dreaming about coming home. Tears were streaming down her face now, but I wasn't done. And while I was gone, you replaced me. You let another man discipline my children, sleep in my bed, and make himself at home in my house. You didn't just cheat on me, Emily, you erased me. I never meant— Yes, you did. You meant every bit of it. You just didn't mean to get caught. I turned to go back inside, then paused. The supervised visits start tomorrow at 2 p.m. Don't be late. And Emily, come alone. The next few weeks passed in a blur of lawyer meetings, court hearings, and CPS interviews. Emily hired an attorney, a sharp-dressed woman named Rebecca Stone, who specialized in making cheating wives look like victims of circumstance. But all the legal expertise in the world couldn't overcome video evidence, witness testimony, and a paper trail that painted Emily and Ryan as selfish adults who'd put their own desires ahead of children's welfare. The divorce proceedings were swift and brutal. Emily tried to claim she deserved half of everything, including my military pension and the house. Her lawyer argued that Ryan had been providing valuable childcare services, and that Emily had been a devoted mother who'd simply fallen in love with the wrong person at the wrong time. Tom Harrison destroyed those arguments with surgical precision. Your Honor, he said during one particularly memorable hearing. While Sergeant Wolfe was serving his country in a combat zone, Mrs. Wolfe was conducting an affair in the family home. She allowed her boyfriend to discipline the children, gave him a key to the house, and according to multiple witnesses, frequently left the children in his care while she went out socializing. He played the video of Ryan locking Jake outside. The courtroom went silent as we watched my 8-year-old son standing on the porch, crying while Emily laughed in the background. This is not a case of a lonely wife who made a mistake, Harrison continued. This is a case of parental neglect and the endangerment of minor children. Judge Patricia Williams, a stern woman in her 60s who'd been hearing family court cases for 20 years, was not impressed with Emily's performance. Mrs. Wolfe, she said, you allowed a non-family member to discipline your children while their father was deployed overseas. You gave this individual access to your home and permitted him to act in a parental capacity without any legal authority to do so. Can you explain your reasoning? Emily's lawyer had coached her well. She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue and spoke in a small, wounded voice. Your Honor, I was overwhelmed. My husband had been gone for almost a year, and I was trying to manage 2 young children on my own. Ryan was helping me, and I thought— You thought what, Mrs. Wolfe? I thought the children needed a male role model. Wrong answer. Judge Williams leaned forward. Mrs. Wolfe, your children's father is a decorated Army officer who was serving his country. Are you suggesting he was an inadequate role model? No, Your Honor. I just meant— What you meant, Mrs. Wolfe, is that you prioritized your romantic relationship over your children's emotional well-being. The evidence shows that your boyfriend was physically and emotionally abusive to your son, yet you allowed this behavior to continue. Emily's composure finally cracked. I never meant for anyone to get hurt. But people did get hurt, Mrs. Wolfe. Your children got hurt, and you were too busy playing house with your boyfriend to notice. The custody decision was everything I'd hoped for and more. I got primary physical custody, Emily got supervised visits every other weekend, and Ryan Miller was banned from having any contact with my children. But the real victory came 3 months later. I was at Jake's baseball game. He'd started playing again after Ryan was out of the picture, when I noticed a familiar figure in the parking lot. Ryan Miller was sitting in his car, watching the game through the chain-link fence, violating his restraining order. I took out my phone and called Officer Martinez. "He's here again?" Martinez sighed. "This is the third time this month. Fourth, but who's counting?" 20 minutes later, Ryan was in handcuffs again. As they loaded him into the patrol car, he spotted me in the stands and started shouting, "This isn't over, Wolfe. You think you've won, but this isn't over." I stood up and walked over to the fence, close enough that he could hear me clearly. "You're right, Ryan. It's not over." I smiled, the same cold smile I'd given him in my guest room months ago. "It's been over for a long time. You're just too stupid to realize it." The patrol car drove away, and I went back to watching my son play baseball. Jake was at bat, and for the first time in months, he looked confident, relaxed, happy. He swung at the first pitch and connected with a solid crack that sent the ball sailing over the left field fence. His first home run. As Jake rounded the bases, grinning from ear to ear, I thought about everything that had happened. Emily was living in a studio apartment across town, working at a different school district because her reputation at the old one was shot. Ryan's gym had gone out of business. Turns out, being known as the guy who hides in closets and gets arrested for stalking children isn't great for a fitness business. But the best part wasn't their downfall. It was watching my kids flourish without the toxic influence of people who'd pretended to care about them while serving their own selfish interests. Jake crossed home plate and looked up at me in the stands. I gave him a thumbs up, and his smile got even wider. That night, after I'd tucked both kids into bed and read them their favorite stories, I sat on my back porch with a beer and thought about the future. Emily would always be their mother, and eventually, the supervised visits would probably become regular visits. That was fine. The kids needed their mom, even if she'd made some spectacularly bad choices. But they'd never again have to deal with some stranger trying to replace their father. They'd never again be punished by someone who had no right to discipline them, and they'd never again have to watch their mother prioritize her love life over their well-being. My phone buzzed with a text message. For a moment, I thought it might be Emily, or maybe even Ryan, trying to contact me from jail. Instead, it was Derek. "Heard Miller got arrested again. You doing okay?" I typed back, "Never better. Justice served, kids safe, mission accomplished." "What's next for Captain Wolfe?" I looked through the sliding glass door at my house. Jake's backpack was on the kitchen counter, Eva's drawings were stuck to the refrigerator with magnets, and everything was exactly as it should be. Next, I'm going to be the best single dad in the history of single dads. Hoo-ah to that. I finished my beer and went inside to lock up for the night. Tomorrow was Saturday, which meant pancakes for breakfast, Jake's baseball practice, and Eva's dance recital. Normal, boring, wonderful family stuff. The kind of life worth fighting for. 6 months later, I ran into Emily at Jake's school during a parent-teacher conference. She looked tired, older, like the weight of her choices had finally settled on her shoulders. "How are you doing?" she asked quietly. "Good, really good. You?" She shrugged. "Getting by. I'm seeing a therapist, trying to figure out how I got so lost." "That's good. The kids need you to get better." "I know, I'm trying." She paused. "Adrian, I want you to know how sorry I am, not just for the affair, but for what I put Jake and Eva through. They didn't deserve that." It was the first real apology she'd ever given me. Not an excuse, not a justification, just an acknowledgement of the damage she'd caused. "No, they didn't," I agreed. "But they're resilient. Kids usually are. Are you ever going to forgive me?" I thought about that question for a long moment. Forgiveness was complicated. It didn't mean forgetting what happened or pretending it didn't matter. It meant choosing not to let someone else's mistakes poison your own future. "I'm working on it," I said finally. "For their sake." and for mine. She nodded, tears in her eyes. That's more than I deserve. Maybe, but it's what they deserve. After she left, I sat in my car for a few minutes, thinking about how far we'd all come. Emily was finally taking responsibility for her actions. The kids were thriving. And I'd learned something important about myself. I was stronger than I'd ever imagined. Not because I'd destroyed my enemies, though I had, but because I'd protected what mattered most. My phone rang. Jake, calling from his friend's house where he was having a sleepover. Dad? I forgot to tell you. I made the All-Star team. That's fantastic, buddy. I'm so proud of you. Will you be able to come to all the games? Wouldn't miss them for the world. After Jake hung up, I started the car and headed home. Eva was waiting for me with a new drawing she'd made at school, a picture of our family. Just the three of us, standing in front of our house, all of us smiling. Do you like it, Daddy? I love it, sweetheart. It's perfect. And it was. Not because our family was perfect, no family ever is, but because it was ours. Real, honest, and built on love instead of lies. Ryan Miller spent 6 months in jail for violating the restraining order. When he got out, he left town. I heard through the grapevine that he'd moved to another state and was working construction. Good for him. Everyone deserves a chance to start over, even people who make catastrophically bad choices. Emily and I eventually worked out a co-parenting arrangement that didn't require supervision. She'd learned her lesson about putting men before her children, and the kids needed their mother in their lives. It wasn't easy, and there were still difficult conversations and awkward moments, but we managed to put Jake and Eva first. 2 years later, I met someone, a teacher named Lisa, who understood that my kids would always come first and who loved them like they were her own. We took things slowly, made sure Jake and Eva were comfortable with the relationship, and built something real and lasting. On our wedding day, Jake was my best man, and Eva was the flower girl. Emily came to the ceremony and wished us well. It was awkward, but it was also healing, proof that people could move past their worst mistakes and find a way to do better. During my wedding speech, I talked about second chances and the importance of fighting for what matters. I didn't mention Ryan Miller by name, but I did say something that I'd learned during the darkest period of my life. Sometimes, the most important battles aren't fought on foreign soil. Sometimes they're fought right here at home, for the people we love most. And sometimes, winning doesn't mean destroying your enemies. It means protecting your family and building something better from the wreckage of what came before. As I looked out at the faces of everyone who mattered to me, my kids, my new wife, my friends, even Emily sitting quietly in the back row, I realized that revenge had been just the beginning of the story. The real victory was everything that came after.